Hello, everyone. It's Charlene Lee, and today I'm going to be talking about different types of intelligence. This is, again, in the space of artificial intelligence. What does intelligence mean and look like, especially as AI is getting better and better at replicating what humans can actually do? So I'd love for you to share your thoughts about AI being intelligent, whatever that means. Is it scary? Is it wonderful? Is it something else? And I would love to hear how you're thinking about artificial general intelligence. So let's get started. Well, a couple of things. First of all, let's define what intelligence means. So let me just get this up here. So this is the definition coming out from various places. And this is something I pulled out from the Human Centered Artificial Intelligence Center at Stanford. And what they say is the definition of intelligence there is the ability to learn and perform the suitable techniques to solve problems. And that's very important. It's solving problems and achieve goals, especially in the context of a ever-changing, uncertain world. So it's one thing for a computing system to do a routine task. For example, put this widget there, analyze data from here to there, and very much being task specific. The difference here with intelligence, though, is that it's actually something much more sustained and much more and also evolving, so that you can also think about the intelligence learning and developing and adjusting itself. And so the question becomes, when does the AI that we have develop into something called general intelligence, meaning that any problem that could come up could be solved potentially by an AI. So here's another example of what that looks like. This is the definition of artificial general intelligence. And it's the ability to learn and perform, again, all those things that we're talking about, solve problems, achieve goals in an uncertain world. But the key thing here is that it's being done by artificial intelligence. And it's anything that a human can do or an animal can do that is able to be replicated. And some of the things that need to happen are these steps, the ability to use reason to identify the steps, to use strategy to solve the problems. It's knowledgeable, has access to a lot of information in order to inform the task that it's trying to solve. It can plan. It can break down a complex task into very discrete steps. You can learn and improve. So, again, that learning part. Communicate the results in a way that other entities like humans can understand, using, for example, natural language. And also, two additional things to be able to sense, understand, and sense different things that are happening in the environment. So, the five senses, for example, seeing, smelling, hearing, tasting, feeling touch, for example, feeling how something feels, but also the emotional aspects of it, to have empathy. And then finally, to be able to act, to actually make decisions and then make it happen, not just at the keyboard, which computers can do, but also in the physical world. So, and also being able to change its location to be able to see new and different things. So these are types of intelligences. And for artificial general intelligence, the general sense is that this is still pretty far away. Uh, we have elements of being able to do this, but not all of it. And one of the things I wanted to do today was to take a look at what are the different types of intelligence in the way that we define it as humans, and also how that looks in the artificial intelligence space. So just have a couple of comments from people. I'm saying hi to Susan. Thanks for joining today. We have Emmanuel coming in from Nigeria. Very good to see you, Emmanuel. And we have Sanjay also saying, this is a really relevant topic. Sanjay, I would love to know why it's really pertinent and relevant to you. So if you can comment back, we'd love to be able to see that and share that potentially. So what I want to talk about today is, what does artificial intelligence look like in the context of human intelligence? And to do that, I want to go back to Howard Gardner, who is a wonderful psychologist who looked at all the different types of intelligence. And he really wrote the book basically on looking at all the different types of intelligence. And he's famous for coming up with not just IQ, but the EQ, the emotional intelligence, and recognizing that we as humans have many different types of intelligence that we need to have. And I wanted to show this really great graphic that was developed by some people. Let me just be able to hide this here so you can see the full thing. So this is based on Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence framework, but this was developed by Chris Saad, Ben Parr, and Jeremiah Aoyang. Thank you guys for sharing this with me. You can see at chrissaad.com/AI framework. And he and Ben and Jeremiah pulled together these 8 different intelligences and really put together frameworks for how they could show up in artificial intelligence, and then go through and really rate some of the latest technologies like ChatGPT and DALL-E against these areas. How good is it at each of these? And it's pretty clear that things like ChatGPT are really good at logical, mathematical, analytics. It's really good at linguistic verbal. It's designed to do that as a chatbot, to understand human words, interpret the task, and then deliver back and communicate back in natural language the results. And we also can say that DALL-E is very good at visual spatial, not good at these other 2 things. So what we'll go through today is a little bit about each of these areas and what they're good at, what they're not good at. I encourage you, if you want to go deeper into some of the frameworks that Chris has put together, take a look at that. So a couple things here. I'm just going to go through each of these. So logical, mathematical, clearly computers are just really good at this. You think about machine learning, predictive analytics, data analysis, forecasting future events, scenario manipulation, and scenario planning. These are all things that computers, frankly, artificial intelligence, much better at it than we as humans. It can just hold and crunch a lot of information much faster than we can. Then we have linguistic verbal intelligence. Again, this is being able to understand words and complex information and deliver it back in a way that solve the problem in a way that people can understand. Again, ChatGPT is already an expert level at this. I think you can argue, if you've been using it, that it's actually really, really good at doing this. I use it all the time to create first drafts of my ideas, and it can do it better and faster than I can do it. And again, as a first draft, but it's also not quite at that expert level yet, where you can give it to it and you know it's going to be fantastic. It's as I like to say, it's not the Pulitzer Prize winning level yet. And then you have visual and spatial, and this is about object recognition. It's also about manipulating objects in art, for example. We already have autonomous vehicles. I live in San Francisco, and we have these cruise cars that are offering like Uber or Lyft type rides to people, and there's nobody driving it. It is really kind of spooky to see this car going down the street with nobody in the car. And it goes and picks up somebody and drops them off at the right place and charges a credit card for it, just like an Uber or Lyft would, but with nobody behind the wheel. So we already have these vehicles or robotics that are able to visual and understand where they are spatially in the world. We also have robots who have been doing this for ages in warehouses. And then we also see them, again, manipulating visual things like Midjourney and DALL-E. And then I want to talk about rhythmic and musical. So this is an interesting example. We already know that the AI and computers are really good at manipulating some information in music. But I also wanted to show this other example. Let me just pull it up if I can. So this is a website, and let me see if I can find it. Where did I put it? All right, here it is. So one of the things it does here, this is from Google research, where they're using something called Music LM. And one of the things it can do, it can take some text, for example, these captions. The first one here, for example, is the main soundtrack of an arcade game. It's fast-paced, upbeat, etc. I'm going to actually put this into the chat so that you all can see and play with this itself. It gives lots and lots of examples of how to do that. But I'm just going to play a little bit of this first example. But I also like this one, the last one here, the slow tempo, bass, drums, reggae song, sustained electric guitar, high-pitched bongos, ringing tones, vocals are relaxed, laid back, feel very expressive. This pretty chill. And again, it's creating this music just from those words. And then it also adds some vocals. Just wanted to show that with you. So this is just a little bit of indication of how uh, artificial intelligence can be, quote, creative when it comes to the music space. But again, it's really understanding the fact that these words are associated with different types of music that have been tagged in this way. And then it's finding it, pulling it together, understanding music theory enough to be able to pull these samples into a piece. So this is what a musician would do. My daughter is a musician, and she prides herself in being able to pull these things together with an idea. And now we have these tools, these machines that are able to do this very, very quickly. So you can imagine if you're looking to create a particular sound for a video game or for an ad, uh, rather than having a musician go through and create all these things, you could just put it into some of these AI engines and create something. So this is available now. Some of the sites and the places that are available for this, I'll just put this into the chat. Some places where you can already start doing this music AI. I'm just going to put it into the chat so you all can see some examples of this. I've not used all these. I just found a bunch of them, tried them a little bit, saw some of the samples, but they all do different things. Being able to just put beats together, to putting whole songs together, to again snippets, and again various ways of thinking about all the ways that you can use these music generators. Music again not being a traditional 2.5 minute pop hit, but music in the context of how we use it in everyday life. So I'm going to take a break here and just see. I see some comments here. So let me go and take a look at them. Let's see. So we have Debesh coming from India. So great to see you. Let's see. Sanjay's response is the reason why this is so pertinent to him. There is no conflict between human intelligence with AI. AI is going to improve the way of our life by empowering to do the job with more precision. Thank you, Sanjay. We're going to talk about that. And so is this intelligence a threat or not? How do we see about it and think about it? So we'll definitely talk about that. But Tina has this comment here. Very relevant for exploring AI and the impact on knowledge. It will lead to a redefinition of how knowledge is processed by humans and machines. I can possibly see a shift to improve innovation because humans can spend more time on empathetic decisions rather than making basic knowledge gathering. Bettina, I think that's a great point because I do believe that there is a place, it's concerning about how AI is going to replace some of the knowledge workers that we have today because it just does a lot of the things better than we can do. But at the same time, it's going to allow us as humans to be able to move on to higher level things. We talk about how there's going to be job destruction and make certain jobs go away, but we're also going to have jobs that will come in the future being created by AI. But one of the problems is those new jobs are not necessarily going to be filled by the people in existing jobs who will be losing that kind of work. So we have this, again, disruption that's happening to the status quo. We're going to have to prepare for that and definitely deal with that as leaders in our organizations. Jay, hi, thanks for joining from Rockford. Let's see, there's a bunch of other comments. And then I have a LinkedIn user joining from NYC, from New York. I love generative AI and have been testing it personally and at work, highly aware of potential risks. Would love to connect. So this is Daphne who's saying this. And then Shella has a question around asking about those autonomous vehicles. Who's controlling the vehicle? That's a really good question. Who's driving it? It's the AI, it's the computer program. So if you have ever driven in some of these self-driving cars, I've had a Tesla for the past 5 years. It doesn't quite do self-driving. It can do lane tracking really, really well. But it's great. It just reduces how much energy I have to expend in making sure we're staying in the lane. It can do a lot of that heavy lifting for me. And to some extent, it can navigate around, change lanes, get off exits. And if you have the advanced version, it can drive you around too, around cities and understand stoplights and see where people are so it doesn't run into them. These cars from Cruise are completely being driven by themselves. And they are, again, it's a little disconcerting to see because you're like, who's in control here? But they also run into problems. I was walking in my neighborhood last night and there was a truck trying to tow a car away, which is a lot of times happening in San Francisco. And there were two cruise cars sitting right behind that tow truck, and they didn't know what to do because they've never really quite encountered that situation. If you were a human driver, you would like, of course, make sure everything is clear and then go around the tow truck. These cruise cars were going to be there for the duration of that of that tow truck being there until it was clear so it could go forward. So the intelligence behind these autonomous vehicles is really good now. They can drive on their own, but they still can't quite manipulate around an uncertain space. It doesn't know what to do. I kind of think of it as a teenage driver who hasn't really seen all the different activities and is really unsure of itself. In fact, my friends who have taken a ride in cruise feel like, yeah, it feels like it's uncertain. It's not quite clear. It goes super slow. If there's a yellow light, it slows down and never goes through it. So there are aspects of this where, again, it's still really early on, but it's happening so incredibly quickly that that type of intelligence, that spatial intelligence is definitely there. So I'm going to go on and see who else we have here. We have Jay. Interesting application. We'll have to use this. Again, the music one he's talking about with my saxophone to put down a soundtrack. Jay, I would love to hear that. So send it to me. I would love to hear what you do with this. But again, it's really interesting. I know a lot of musicians, a lot of companies who are already using these tools have been for a long time. The music generators, beat generators, background generators, again, very, very powerful. Great comments here today. Let's see. I believe AI is still automating and speeding up processes. Again, this is from Christopher, that we humans can't perform at scale. However, there are many aspects of reasoning, discernment, and judgment that are far from being achieved by AI yet. There is a big yet there, Christopher. Absolutely agreed with you on this. And I think one of the challenges right now is what I'll talk about this is like, well, we can say it's not accurate, it's not really that good at these things. So we've got some breathing room. I don't think we have that much breathing room. And I think we absolutely have to start preparing for this type of intelligence. Jay's asking for the URL. For some reason, I think I dropped it into LinkedIn. I don't know where it is, but let me get the example again. Let's see where it goes. Sorry, I'm going to take just a second here to put it into the chat and I'll see where it's heading. I can see that it is posting on, let's see, Facebook, YouTube, and for some reason, it is not posting on LinkedIn, which is where most of you are. And oh, thank you, Jay, for posting it. Thank you very much. I see that you put it up there. All right. I'm a little behind on the comments here. Sheila, thank you for joining from Reno, Nevada. Um, let's see. I'm looking at here. Let's see anything else here. Here's a question from Sanjay. What would impact some of the professional jobs like coder, lawyers, training, doctors, and many more? What's my view on this? Absolutely, I think it's a little concerning, very concerning. So, for example, if you're a paralegal, having to go and summarize lots of documents, the AI, for example, ChatGPT, is really, really good at that. It may not always be accurate, so you probably want to check it as a paralegal, but a lot of the heavy lifting of reviewing documents are not necessarily there. If you're a copywriter, you can do so much better and you can put that creative spin then. So this is about being prompt engineers rather than engineers of the first draft. So I think about the first draft jobs out there that can be handled by a lot of these things. Radiologists, for a long time now, we are now actually seeing that some of this AI diagnostic tools are even just as good, if not better, than radiologists who are trained to be able to analyze X-rays and MRIs to understand and interpret what those results are. Again, I don't think I'm ready to necessarily trust an AI, but AI assisting doctors and lawyers and copywriters and researchers is a significant step in the right direction, I think. All right. So let me move on and talk a little bit about the other types of intelligence. We talked about body kinesthetic intelligence a little bit. This is about being able to sense your environment and respond to it. We have autonomous vehicles. We also have motion tracking systems. Again, if you think about autonomous robots, mobile robots, being able to be in your environment. I've talked about autonomous AI agents that can sit literally next to you in your computer, but imagine a physical robot that can also do things for you, be able to accomplish tasks. Again, this is typically associated with athletes and other people who can move around obstacles in the physical space, but we can also see computers and things doing that. I'm particularly interested in exoskeletons. These are things that support people who may have spinal injuries, for example, or again, just being able to manipulate things in your environment. But in addition to helping humans be better at this and stronger, more flexible, they could also be autonomous too as well. All right, want to talk about some of the more internal mind aspects of AI. And this in particular is talking about interpersonal skills. Again, being able to understand complex human moods, have empathy. These are things, again, that chatbots are particularly quite good at now. One of the things that I wanted to show was, in particular, a comparison between uh, two bots. Again, Chat GPT 4, and a new one that just launched this month called Hey Pi. So let me just show that to you. Let me move over to the right place. All right, here we go. So uh, this is the idea. I'm sorry, it should be interpersonal intelligence here, and it's a little hard to see. I'm going to try to make it a little bigger. So I put in this question. My friend was recently diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. What are the best ways for me to support her? And ChatGPT says, "I'm really sorry to hear about your friend's diagnosis. It's wonderful you want to support her during this difficult time. Here are some suggestions," and it lists them out. HeyPi takes a very different approach, and it says, "I'm sorry to hear your friend is going through this. Cancer is an incredibly hard thing to deal with, both for the person who has it and their loved ones. Your willingness to support your friend is really admirable. I would suggest that you start by simply being present, etc." And then it asks the questions, do you want to hear more specific things that you could do to help your friend? So Chat GPT is sort of like your all-knowing person that just says, "Okay, I'm so sorry. Here are the 8 things that you can do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8." Hey Pi goes, "I'm so sorry about your friend. Really want to empathize with that. And here's one suggestion. I'm not going to overwhelm you. Is this good? Is this what you needed? I'm going to check in with you. Does this work for you? Do you want to take it in a different direction?" So I've been playing with Hey Pi quite a bit. And it feels much more conversational. Again, if you were talking to a friend, an advisor, a therapist, they wouldn't just sit there and kind of explain and put everything out there in one fell swoop. They'll take their time and see if you want some more. Is this sufficient? Is it not? Do you need more? Do you want to take this in a different direction? So, HeyPi was actually designed. Let me just go and read some of the things that it was designed to do. It was designed to be a kind and supportive companion, offering conversations, friendly advice, and concise information in a natural flowing style. This is from their press release from earlier this month. And PI, stands for personal intelligence because it can provide information based on a person's unique needs and interests. So Pi is a teacher, a coach, confidant, creative partner, and sounding board is how they're positioning it. So what we're seeing is this confluence of different types of intelligence. You can take the linguistic abilities and analytical and mathematical abilities of powerful engines like ChatGPT, but also layer on top of it intelligence that's much more interpersonal, and being able to express and understand and have empathy for the situation. And again, chat is great for that because it understands how it's actually communicating itself and feeds back to you what it's hearing and also what it believes you need to hear. Intrapersonal intelligence is a little bit different. This is about intelligence that knows has consciousness. It understands how it takes up space. It understands its own capabilities and limitations and what makes it unique. Now, there's a lot of agreement that these machines are not conscious. There are some people who believe that they may be sentient, have intelligence. They can definitely pass the Turing test, which is that a computer can fool a human into thinking that it's real. But in most cases, intrapersonal isn't there. But they are self-learning. They can adjust their behavior, optimize themselves, self-monitor, and actually self-reflect on how good of a job it's doing or not. So it has some of that extra personal intelligence built into its programming. And then finally, the last level of intelligence is existential, which means that it understands the context and circumstances. So again, AI doesn't have consciousness, but it can be programmed to be ethical and responsible. So understands how its existence could um, jeopardize other people, their existence or well-being, and understand how its actions could potentially impact people. So that's a very quick view into the different types of intelligence. And I just want to talk a little bit about why this is so interesting and why it is so scary and wonderful for all of us. And in particular, we feel oftentimes, I think an underlying issue here is that we have a need to be in control, that we want to know that we can control this AI that's not going to do anything harmful to us. And as it becomes more and more intelligent and it feels like it's intelligent, it feels like it has that you're talking to a real entity. This is one of the biggest issues in that it can be really unnerving to talk to it and feel like you're talking to a real person. But we have to remember it is not. These large language models are really, really good at that linguistic intelligence that gives us a sense that we are talking to it. And this is the biggest challenge. We, as humans, want to ascribe intelligence into objects or animals or things that are not necessarily intelligent. I mean, I look at my dog, right? And I think the dog understands me, it's intelligent, but does it sentient? Does it really have consciousness? A dog can't even pass a mirror test and identify that it's looking at itself in the mirror. So it's not, but there are some types of intelligence that we clearly is there. So I think we need to be very, very careful at ascribing this type of intelligence into these AI tools and really stop using some of these human intelligence ways of looking at things to measure AI intelligence. The thing that I think is really interesting is that as these different types of intelligence get developed, they are going to get tied together by these autonomous agents. I think about it as blackboarding intelligence. There's a form of blackboarding in AI in computing systems or in teams where you get together everybody with different specialties and diversity of backgrounds and experiences, and you brainstorm how to solve a problem on a blackboard. Well, these different types of AIs can actually get together in a room, so to speak, and run through iterations and tap into each other's intelligence to become much more intelligent and to provide a better solution to a particular problem. And this is where artificial general intelligence is starting to make its way, because then you can throw any type of problem at it. And you know that because of these connective autonomous agents, that the AI that comes from lots of different places could actually solve these problems. So the last thing I would say is that I think the hardest part when we're looking at this AI space is that we're looking at it from a point of scarcity. Again, we just had a discussion about jobs. And yes, there are going to be huge implications for jobs. But I think, and we have to be realistic about that. But I think we also need to be thinking about AI from a point of abundance and saying, what can it also do? So you need a balance between thinking about the dangers and and the limitations of AI, but also balance that against how we can actually be proactive and lean into this. So I have a couple last questions in here. I know I'm running a little bit late. I try to keep these things to about a half hour. So Mark Evans says, what would Einstein think? I see generative AI as a transformative force that can reshape the way we create and innovate, just like the remarkable discovery of the laws of nature, says AI Einstein. So I think in particular, again, Einstein just was always filled with awe and wonder about the world and just looked at it in such a creative way. And ever the optimist would actually say he would love this, I think, more than anything else because of the potential. Let's see. Elijah says, good point. When Dolly combines with ChatGPT, it would be very difficult to detect it's not human. I think right now, even when you go and talk to ChatGPT or some of these other things, if you get into longer discussions, people have used a lot of these tools to work through emotional questions and issues like, I'm feeling this way. What do I do about this? I'm confused. So, not quite a therapist, but we're seeing also people in therapy using some of these tools to deal with some of the lower level stresses. Just being able to, quote, talk to somebody, just the expression of your issues and concerns, the talk therapy part of it can be really impactful. And then let's see, one last comment here from Jay to a response to Bettina. Establishing guardrails in a highly competitive environment is a key part in ethics, values, and motivations. But keep putting that in place is really difficult to do inside of these AI tools. And that's why governance, laws, regulations are really important. I know that this is a top priority for governments to be looking at how AI needs to be regulated, controlled, guidelines put in place for organizations and companies to use this in a direct way. All right. So I think I'm going to have to stop here. We have one other comment here. I'm just not going to have time to look at it. But the response is um, I think the key thing I would say again is don't mistake an intelligent that these machines are intelligent for general intelligence. And in particular, don't mistake our intelligence for a machine's intelligence. The reason why these machines are so good at what they do is because we put our intelligence into them. These chat formats, the way we're asking the questions in an intelligent way, comes back at us as intelligence, but it's our own intelligence reflected in the AI. And so I think that's the key thing that I think is so important to understand. And that when we think about intelligence, to think about it more broadly, look at it, all of these, but also see it, especially in AI, it's the brilliance and intelligence of people that's being actually reflected in them. So quick thing next week, I'm going to be talking about artificial empathy. This is a topic that I have been thinking about and writing about for the past couple of years. I do believe that machines are not only capable of empathy, but also could be better at it than we as humans, and how that could be a good thing. So tune in next week on the 23rd, and we'll talk about that. And until then, take care, stay safe with the AI tools out there, have fun with them. All right, talk to you next week.